Today we are going to see the contemporary history of Africa. After the end of this lesson, you will be able to list the major problems of the contemporary Africa. Second, explain the major political, socio-economic achievement of independent African state. Third one, identify in what way the colonial heritage affect the development of independent African state. Before that, student, as you have learned in your geography lesson, Africa is the world's second largest and the second most populous continent next to Asia. About 13.3 million square kilometers, it covers 20.2% of its land surface of the earth. The four extreme points of Africa: in the north, Cape Bon, 37 degrees and 21 minutes north. In the south, Cape Agulhas, Republic of South Africa, about 34 degrees and 52 minutes in the south. In the east, Cape Guardafi or Somalia, about 51 degrees and 28 minutes east. In the west, Cape Verde, Senegal, 17 degrees and 33 minutes west. It covers the continent of Africa. This is a map of Africa. The western part consisted this area in Senegal, and the eastern part up to Somalia, and the northern part around Tunisia. In the south, the Republic of South Africa. Africa has relatively a compact shape. This means the continent east to west and north to south distances are almost the same. Africa has the largest quantity of natural resources, including diamond, gold, salt, sugar, cobalt, uranium, copper, silver, petroleum, cocoa, beans, fruits, and so on. But there was a problem among the African society after the end of colonialism until today. In history, the contemporary Africa the terms of chronology, contemporary Africa is the post-colonial period of Africa. But colonialism did not end on the specific time. It took Africa about 14 years to achieve complete independence. The last independent African country was South Africa. It would be correct to start from the year 1963. 1963 was the formation of Organization of African Unity. Then, following 1963, Africa faced more or less similar political, economic, and social problems in most African countries. Students, what do you think is the major problems of the current African state? What do you think the major problems of the current African state? In the 1960s and 1970s and later, the major problem of African states were lack of political stability among different African countries. The other main problem of African countries was irresponsible and undemocratic governance. Responsible governor as well as undemocratic governance among the African countries. The other one party rule. One party. Democracy supports the multi-party system, but the African countries implemented one party rule. The other problems of Africa, corruption. Corruption, it was the major problem of African countries. The other one, poverty. There are two types of poverty, relative poverty and absolute poverty. In Africa, absolute poverty happened in the different states. It means African peoples are unable to eat 3 times in a day. They did not fulfill the basic necessity. The other one, injustice. There was injustice in the most African countries. Those are the main problems of African states in the 1960s as well as in the 1970s and nowadays. Those shortcomings brought about political opposition, coup d'etat, and revolution, depriving African stability and the chance to smooth the development. It affects the development of African countries. In the post-independence decade were especially marked by coup d'etat and counter-coup. For example, between 1963 up to 1965, 5 violent change of government occurred in Dahomey. Dahomey means nowadays Benin. In Benin, there are 5 violent changes on 2 years. On the other country, for example, in December 1962, Habib Bourguiba, he was the president of Tunisia, barely escaped from attempt of assassination. August 1963, Fulbert Hulo of Congo Brazzaville was overthrown from the power. On June 1965, Ahmed Ben Bella of Algeria, he was overthrown from the power. By the way, students, as I told before, Ahmed Ben Bella was a patriot of Algeria. In 1962, Algeria became an independent state after 8-year struggle. But in 1965, Ahmed Ben Bella was overthrown from the power. On January 1966, a coup in Nigeria destroyed a life of many political leaders in the country. The other one, in February 1966, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, he was overthrown from the power. By the way, the first sub-Saharan black country was independent after the end of Second World War was Ghana. The former name of Ghana, Gold Coast. The first president of independent Ghana was Kwame Nkrumah. He was overthrown from the power in 1966. The other one, Libya. The first leader of independent Libya was Muhammad Riz. Muhammad Riz, but in 1969, the army took power in Libya, removing Muhammad Riz. Then, the king was succeeded by Muhammad Gaddafi. Gaddafi led Libya 1969 up to his death. The other one, in February 1971, Milton Obote was overthrown from the power and succeeded by Idi Amin Dada. Idi Amin Dada took the political power in Uganda. Those political power was implemented after the end of independence. Student, why these political shake-ups took place among the African countries? There are 2 explanations. Mind you, student, why these political shake-ups took place among African countries. There are two explanations. According to the historians and other writers, they explain that some countries, the ex-colonial powers quickly withdraw before Africa got enough experience in self-government. In the other side, other scholars against this idea. However, some scholars do not accept this explanation. They argue that it was only in the former Belgian Congo and Angola that the colonial regime made hastily withdrawals without African countries got enough experience. In other countries, especially in the French West Africa and British colony, educated groups were given enough time to have experience and administration before the withdrawal was effected. Before the withdrawal of European countries, many educated Africans influenced African politics. Second explanation, the political system and organs of government left behind, mind you students, the organs of government left behind the ex-colonial power were really unstable for and unworkable in Africa. Because according to some scholars, this explanation is to some extent of correct, because the political system that was left behind by colonial powers was based on the Western democracy. The European powers or the colonizers implemented in Africa the Western democracy. This system works best where two or more political parties existed in a country with an ideology based on the programs, operate within framework of a constitution. As you know, constitution is a fundamental and a supreme law of a given country. If there is a constitution, both the governor and the governed are under the law. But among African countries, there is no this type of system. In the pre-colonial period, the political tradition among the peoples of Africa was ruled by kings as well as chiefs who exercised unlimited power, unlimited government. At the time of independence, the great majority of African people were illiterate, including our country, Ethiopia. Our country, Ethiopia, never colonized, but there was high number of illiterate as well as in the African countries. Under such condition, there could be no meaningful political participation, such as required for political system based on the Western ideology. It is difficult to implement the Western ideology in Africa directly. In fact, there were countries where two or more political parties was existed, but once in power, most of the parties desire to stay in power indefinitely. As a result of this, for their own power existence, the African leaders followed this. Moreover, they took strong measures to eliminate the opposition power. In most African countries, the African leaders, they eliminate the opposition party. It affects the development as well as the growth of democracy in Africa. Also, they claimed to rule on a constitutional basis. They suppressed civil rights, democratic rights, and violated the human rights. Most of African leaders violated the human as well as democratic right of the citizen. Student, what have been the ethnic problems of Africa? Colonialism has also left behind legacy on problems which contributed to the political instability of African state. One of the results of colonialism was the creation, supposedly, of a nation state. By the way, Britain implemented in Africa divide and rule system. Divide and rule, the division based on ethnicity, religion, and so on. However, many of these nation states are ethnically very diverse. The diverse ethnicity in Africa. For example, Gabon. In Gabon, about 40 ethnicity. About 14 ethnicity in Gabon. In Nigeria, Nigeria has over 250 ethnic groups. In Zambia, about 73 ethnic groups. Tanzania, more than 100 ethnic groups. Ethiopia, more than 75 ethnic groups. Many of these ethnic groups are fought bitterly against one another in pre-colonial period. There was ethnic conflict among African states. For example, the Nigerian crisis and so on. The Congo crisis. Despite years of interaction under colonial regime, the pre-colonial ethnic conflict had not died out. It became the source of political instability among the African countries. In some countries, the ethnic conflict have grown in a bloody civil war and genocide. The major problem in Africa state had been lack of respecting diversity. There was no tolerance among the African country. For example, the Congo-Katanga crisis. The Katanga conflict in Congo-Kinshasa. By the way, the Katanga-Congo crisis or the Katanga conflict in Congo-Kinshasa was solved by United Nations organization. Our country, Ethiopia, was involved in the Congo-Katanga crisis. Ethiopia involved on side of United Nations and solved this problem. The other one, Biafra. Biafra in the western part of Africa, in Nigeria and other states. It was solved by the African organization or OAU. The other one, Rwandan genocide. The Hutu and Tutsi. The Hutu and Tutsi struggles. More than 800,000 people was died in the ethnic conflict of Africa. The economic system inherited by independent African state was another source of problem. The major problem in the economy of Africa has been lack of diversity. As I told before, there is no respecting each other among the African states. It was one of the base of conflict for the continent. Throughout colonial period, Africans were encouraged only to produce raw material for export. The African people produce different raw material for only export purpose. The colonial regime made little effort to establish factories that would produce the manufacturing goods in Africa. The other one, colonies were made producer of minerals or for industries of Europe and the rest of industry to the advanced world. In the field of agriculture, Africans were encouraged to specialize on a single crop. That products or monocrop products among African countries. The other one, the price of such single product in the world market have been stable. For example, coffee. The African coffee price is low. When we see the Brazil coffee, the Vietnam and so on, at high price. It was one of the legacy of colonialism among the African states. Thus, whenever a price of such product fell on the world market, African states often faced crisis, which in turn became a cause for political instability among the African countries. In many African countries have been a natural resource. Africa is rich in natural resource. But however, the lack of capital in the different African countries, including our country Ethiopia. The other one, lack of technical skills that are necessary to develop resources. On the other hand, the economy of Africa is based on agriculture. The African economy depends on agriculture, or the backbone of African economy is agriculture. But the agriculture techniques are still backward. The African people use traditional method and technique of agriculture. When you see Ethiopia, starting from the Aksumite civilization until nowadays, Ethiopian farmers use the force of animals. It is the indicator of backward technique. The other one, food shortage. Food shortage is greater problem of African countries. This problem is further made worse by rapid population growth. The population number increased highly, but the food was scarce. This problem is further made worse by rapid population growth, especially in the city. The peoples are migrated from rural to urban areas. This leads to problem of urban poverty. In the urban area of Africa, there was urban poverty, unemployment, and crime. There was crime, unemployment, and urban poverty. This also problem of, in addition to this, the other problem of Africa was environmental degradation. Environmental degradation was the other problem of Africa. In short, the main problems of contemporary Africa, first one, poverty. Poverty, it indicates the absolute poverty, unable to eat 3 times in a day. The other one, unemployment. There is high number of adults in Africa, but there is no work. The other one, crime. Crime was another problem of African countries. In addition to crime, environmental degradation. Due to climate change, drought affects the African countries. The other one, disease like HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS pandemic has also worsened condition in the most of black African countries. The other problem, the occurrence of natural and man-made disaster. There was a natural problem as well as man-made problem in the African country. The other problem of Africa, donor agency, or in other words, non-governmental organization. Non-governmental organizations have their own agenda and priorities, which may not be priority to aid receipt countries. As the back of any NGO, there was their own priorities. It affects the economy of the African countries. In addition to those problems, the other main problem of Africa, brain drain. Brain drain was another main problem of African countries. All this made difficulty for the life lot of millions of Africa by the following ways in the contemporary Africa. There was hunger, poor health condition, low economic growth, lack of industrial development, poor education, or high number of illiteracy. Africa economic growth had been hampered by the combination of several factors. That factors, as I told before, then most African countries have been becoming increasingly dependent on foreign aid. Most of African countries was supported by the foreign aid, especially the aid of Western country until nowadays in the Far East and Middle East countries like China. Nowadays supporter of African countries, and the Western, especially West and the European countries, aid most of the African states. All African states have natural resource, but lack of capital, lack of skilled manpowers and lack of technical skills to use the resource. It was one of the main problems of African countries. The independent African state has experienced both success and failures. This is all about today's lesson. Students, today we have seen about the contemporary history of Africa. The contemporary history of Africa means after the end of colonialism. It includes the current history of Africa. Many African people is affected by the colonial legacy. As a result of this, we are not fulfill the basic necessity until today. And African countries always depend on foreign aid. The foreign countries always support the African state. In addition to this, the other problem of Africa is ethnic conflict, lack of tolerance among the African ethnic groups. It was another problem for the development of Africa. The other one, brain drain. The educated Ethiopians left, the educated Ethiopians as well as the educated Africans left their own country to get a better job and a better salary in the Western world. It affects the development of Africa. For the next time, students answer the following question. The first question, list the major weakness of contemporary African countries. Second, how do you foresee the future of Africa? How do you foresee the future of Africa? Third question, what were the major political problems of African countries? The fourth question, do you think that the African state could be a self-reliant? How? As you are an African student, how Africa become a self-reliant country? The fifth one, what have been the ethnic problem of Africa? The last question, mention the major economic and social problem of Africa. Until next time, thank you for listening, student. Bye bye.